everyone, it's Alice and I'm here for my April mid-month reading update. So I didn't bother doing a wrap up at the end of March because I only managed to finish one book in the second half of March, which wasn't ideal. But April is going better so far. I've got 2 books that I finished in April, and I've obviously got the book that I finished in March to talk to you about today. And I'm also currently reading 5 books, which is overkill, but apparently we've decided to be those people again and to just dip in and out of reading as much as we can. So I will try to make this as short and sweet as I can possibly make it. I'll give you my in-depth thoughts on the 3 that we've actually fully read, and then just some brief thoughts on what I'm feeling so far on the books that I've started. So, without further ado, here we go. So at the end of March, I finished Beasts of Prey by Ayana Gray. This is the first book in a YA fantasy duology, following 2 characters called Kofi and Econ. Kofi has magic in a world where magic should be extinct because people who have access to the Splendor, it's not actually called magic in this world, it's called Splendor, but people who have access to the Splendor have been basically hunted down, and it only resurges very infrequently in certain bloodlines. So Kofi discovers that she has magic, and she's trying to obviously work out what to do with this information. Meanwhile, Econ has been trying to become one of the Sons of the Six? I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like a warrior society that defends this town, and he's always competed to be one of them, but he ends up doing something wrong and he gets rejected. So he's trying to prove himself as worthy of being one of these sons in the hopes that he'll be able to get what he's always wanted from life. I ended up giving this one 4 stars because just in the last few chapters, it really did catapult to another level. Things went in a direction that I definitely wasn't expecting. I'm not going to get spoilery on it because obviously this is just the first book in a series, but I can say that there are a lot of YA tropes in this one, but there are some tropes that are turned on their heads. It leaves it in a very open-ended way, where the characters have been separated and they're going to be going on quite intensely different journeys in the sequel, so I'll definitely be picking that one up as soon as I can, because this is a very promising debut. The world is very well crafted. I liked the writing. It took me a little while to get into it because it's very, very slow for the first half, but when things start happening, they start happening very quickly. So I'm hoping that now that the action has kicked off and now that we know these characters and we know this world, the second book will be a bit more pacey throughout, so I won't have those lulls where I'm not really that into it. We then have the first book that I finished in April, which is A Storm of Sisters by Michelle Harrison. This was also a 4-star read. This is the 4th book in the Pinch of Magic series, following the Widdershins sisters Betty, Charlie and Fliss as they get up to all kinds of crazy adventures that they never seem to intend on. They just accidentally find themselves in these situations. They're like, oh, why is this happening to us again? That's fine. So in this one, their auntie Clarissa actually breaks her ankle, so they have to go to the place where she lives, which is, as you can tell by the cover, in a very snowy, distant, cold locale, and they end up discovering that there is a haunting in the hotel they're staying at. There was a mysterious masked highwayman that performed this robbery like many, many years ago, and it's kind of been made into this myth and legend in the local town. It's made into quite a grand love story because it's rumoured that the ghost is the lover of the highwayman, and when he drowned, his lover kind of went out to find him, and then she ended up passing away as well. You do find out that those roles have been assigned quite strangely. I won't say too much about it, but this is another one that has a very fun twist in it. It definitely turns a lot of things on its head. I'm going to be honest, this was my least favourite book in the A Pinch of Magic series. I don't know why. I loved A Tangle of Spells, which was the 3rd book. That was my favourite, and I thought that was going to be the last one. I enjoyed Pinch of Magic, and I think I liked Sorcery of Spells more. So it's been kind of up and down from 4 to 5 stars during the series for me. But this one, I don't know what it was about it, but for a middle grade, I just found it such a slog to get through. I loved what Michelle Harrison had done with these characters. I love seeing the girls grow up. I liked the new location. I was intrigued by the story, but I just couldn't absorb myself in it fully. And it got to the stage where Sean and I were reading like a chapter a day and just not feeling inclined to read any more than that. By the end of the book, I did end up giving it a 4-star because I can appreciate the writing style, I can appreciate the way that the story is written, and I liked everything that ended up happening. It just, again, it felt like it took a long while to get there for me. I thought I could see a lot of things coming very early, and obviously I'm trying to withhold judgment on that respect because this is a middle grade book. I am an adult reader. I have read more books than readers, like the target audience, will have read, so I will have seen some of these tropes before and I will find it more predictable than middle grade readers would find it. So I'm trying not to hold it too accountable for that. It just hampered my enjoyment of it a little bit because I haven't had that with any of the other A Pinch of Magic stories. They've all surprised me. Even as an adult reader going into these, they've really reinvigorated my love of the magic, my love of middle grade. And this one just felt a bit standard. That being said, I still recommend the series as a whole. If Michelle Harrison writes any more books in this series, I will be snapping them up. I might end up rereading this one in the winter with the children because it's a very nice story. And it's also got kind of those spooky vibes. So reading this like October, November time, I think I would have enjoyed it more. But 4 stars for Her Storm of Sisters. The last book that I finished this month so far is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. And I was right when I did my Quarter Year Crisis book tag. This has become a new favourite. This well deserved the shout out that I gave it when I was only halfway through. 5 stars, and I would happily read this again today. This follows a guy called Wallace who dies. It's sad. He is an absolute asshole in life. He is a lawyer and he just doesn't have any friends. He doesn't have any family. He just focuses on his work. He doesn't care about his employees as long as they're working to the right standard. He doesn't care about them as people at all. And the first chapter is just Wallace brutally firing this woman. She's like, oh, my son's getting married and my daughter's got a scholarship with your company and like, we really appreciate you. We know how much you care. And he's like, you're fired. And it just really got me because it was just such a brilliant way to be introduced to this character who then goes through such intense character development that he feels like a completely different person by the end, but you can still see the similarities, so it doesn't feel like unrealistic character development. But all I knew about this one going into it was that it was somebody who died, who fell in love with a ferryman. I didn't know how wonderfully that concept was going to come across. I didn't know how much I was going to love Hugo, who is the ferryman. I didn't know how much I was going to love Nelson, who is another ghost who is at the Chiron's Crossing tea and treats. I didn't know how much I was going to love May, who is the Reaper who comes and collects Wallace in the first place. There's Apollo the ghost dog, and honestly, I just loved all of them. If you've watched this channel in the recent months, you'll know that we went through quite a bad reading slump towards the end of last year, and we're still trying to get our reading mojo back a little bit, but what I can say about this one is we read 10% in the first night of starting it, which is impressive because we started it on the drive back from my parents' house, and just from the drive back from my parents until we went to bed, which was like maybe half an hour, we smashed through the first 10%. I was absolutely gripped instantly. And then we read like the last third, I think, in one night because I just couldn't stop. I just wanted to know what would happen. I didn't want to leave the characters, and I was just so excited and so absorbed in this world and in this story. And I love it more than The House in the Cerulean Sea. That is for true. One of my best books of all time, one of my favourite books that I will ever read. It just hits all of the nails on the head for me. The discussions about death, the discussions about the potential of there being like another side, this kind of idea that the tea and treats shop is like this waypoint where you find yourself before you're ready to move on to the other side. If you've watched The Good Place, kind of reminds me of that at points, and I think that's another one of the reasons that I loved it so much, because there's a lot of like vibes that I got from that series, and I loved The Good Place. And this is like The Good Place in book form, but with gay main character and, well, main character, bisexual main character in a relationship with, or in romantic feels with a gay male. But also, yes, I'm not seeing enough about the fact that this is bisexual rep. Yes! we love in the bisexual rep on this channel, and the fact that I ended up discovering that Wallace had like an ex-wife and then he fell in love with Hugo, and I was like, oh my god, it's just everything I've ever wanted in a book. And I'm hoping this isn't spoilers for anybody, because literally all I'd heard people say about this going into it was that it was a guy who died who fell in love with the ferryman, so I feel like that's the one thing that I can openly and easily discuss, even though it is such a focal point of the story. But there's so much more going on in here. And I'm glad that I only knew that little bit going in, because it meant I was surprised by everything else that happened, and I just wanted to see what was going to happen next, and I was pleasantly surprised by the ending, and none of it felt too contrived, and none of it felt too sweet. There are some really bittersweet moments, there are some really happy moments, there are some times when you're absolutely cackling your head off in a book that is written about death, and oh my god, I just loved it. I loved this. And I would like everybody to read it. I'm looking forward to reading TJ Klune's other works. I'm looking forward to reading more TJ Klune books in the future. I am so glad that I picked this up when I did, because it wasn't on my TBR. I just had a copy on the library app because I didn't want to read my Fancy of the Immigrant edition. So I borrowed a copy from the library app and it was close to expiring, so I was like, okay, well, we'll read this now, we'll put everything else down and we'll read it now. And I'm so glad I did, because it's really reinvigorated my love for reading, which has been something that I've been struggling to click back in. Like, I've been reading again, but the slump has still been hitting me emotionally. Like, I haven't really felt excited about reading. Now I do. Yay! I loved this! So now we will move on to talking about the books that I am currently reading in April, the first of which is The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. So if you've seen it recently, I've subscribed to the FairyLoot adult subscription service, and this is the first book that they sent us, and I'm reading these with my friends, so I'm actually reading my subscription books, which is good. And also a curse, because I've managed to rub half of the foiling off on the spine. The blooming sprayed pages are starting to fade at the bottom. I got blooming fingerprints because the page is white. Like, I am slowly but surely destroying this book, but I think I'm enjoying it, so I don't mind that it's getting a little bit damaged in the process. If I wasn't enjoying it, I'd be raging. I'm going to be doing a spoilery vlog on this one, because I've got a lot of thoughts about it, and it's just easier for me to be able to get them all out in a spoilery setting that is dedicated to this book. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on this one more, then check out for that probably at some point next week. But what I can say is that it's very slow to start with, but it is picking up dramatically. But if you're somebody who struggles with multiple perspectives when it feels a bit unnecessary, then you do need to be patient with this one. I don't feel like the 6 viewpoints are necessary, especially because there are a couple that are quite similar. But I am enjoying the magic, I am enjoying the world, I'm interested enough that I will be carrying on with the rest of the series, or at least I'm saying that at 60%. We'll wait and see how I feel in the last 40%. But yeah, I'm glad that FairyLoot picked it, because it feels like a good starting point for an adult subscription. It deals with some adult themes that they wouldn't be able to feature in the YA box. Like, there's a kind of... Try not to get spoilery. Don't get spoilery. I won't get spoilery. But how can I do this? It feels a bit YA. Like, it feels like older YA. I do think the characters read as younger as they're supposed to be, because they're supposed to be like my age, and I keep thinking that they're like a lot younger. Like, Nico and Libby feel like they're kind of 17, 18, and the others feel like they're early 20s, but it's meant to be that Nico and Libby are like early 20s and the others are mid to late 20s, I think. So I definitely think that the kind of aging of the characters feels off, and I'm not a huge fan of some of the vocabulary that is used at the moment, because it feels like it's trying too hard to be literary fiction. Like, it definitely feels like Olivia Blake has kind of swallowed a thesaurus at some point. But again, as I said, I'm interested in carrying on with the series, and I will be doing more in-depth thoughts on this one in a dedicated video, so check back for that. I'm also still halfway through my reread of Morningstar by P.S. Brown. And, like, okay, brutal honesty, I'm struggling. I don't know if it's because it's the first time that I've reread it since reading Iron Gold and Dark Age. So, there is a lot more setup for the second trilogy than I can remember seeing the first time around, because obviously I hadn't read the second trilogy. But having read Iron Gold and Dark Age now, it's taking me a lot longer to get through this because I can see the way that Pierce Brown's mind is working, and I am so baffled by the fact that nobody predicted there was going to be a fourth book as soon as this was released, because there is so much that is opening up, ready to be explored in Iron Gold, in Dark Age, and I'm like, damn, how did I not see him setting that out? How did I not predict that that was going to be followed through more? So I'm taking my time with it more. And I think that's a good thing, because I'm still enjoying it as much. In fact, I might be enjoying it more, because Morningstar has always been the one in this series that is like a 4.5 for me. Sometimes I feel closer to a 4, sometimes I feel closer to a 5. I've given it a 5 every time, because it's always been very, very enjoyable. And compared to the other books that I've read that are 5 stars, it definitely deserves to be up with them. But Red Rising and Golden Sun, I would happily rate like 7 or 8 stars, because I really, really love those. So this one has always fallen down for me a bit compared to those two. Saying that as a massive Red Rising fan, saying that as a humongous Pierce Brown fan, saying that as this is my favourite book series of all time, this one's always fallen down for me. So I'm taking my time with it, seeing how I feel, seeing how I go. I'm just over halfway now, so I'm hoping to get it finished in April, because I am picking up the pace of it more. The beginning, I don't know why, but like the beginning was more of a struggle for me. I think now I'm starting to remember the events that are going to happen, and like most of the setup's been done, so I'm not taking my time with it as much. But I'm still loving it. I'm just struggling this time around, which is interesting, because this is the longest it's ever taken for me to read it. The first time I read it, I think I read it in a week. The second time I read it, it was like 2 or 3 days. And this time I'm like going on for like a month, maybe just over, which is new, but I think it's good. I think it's helping me enjoy it more. I think I'm finally getting more of an appreciation for this one, but I'll let you know when I've finished it. I've also started a little bit of Wither by Lauren Destefano. This is on my Hook a Duck TBR for this month, and I'm enjoying it so far. There is a world in which women die when they are 20, men die when they are 25 because of some kind of genetic issue that's been made, because they cured cancer, cured all these kinds of illnesses so people could live a lot longer, and then their offspring died a lot earlier, kind of like balancing the scales, I guess. But so far we've met the main character, whose name I can't remember, Rhine. It's a very unusual main character's name. I think that is, it's typical for YA dystopia, isn't it, that they have a strange name. But Rhine has just been kidnapped, and she is about to be married off to some guy whose original wife is dying, and he's marrying 3 people, I think, obviously to try and like carry on his line. But it'll be interesting to see how, if she gets out of it. Because she's just been given like this gorgeous wedding dress, and they're getting ready to do this big like televised wedding. So it feels very selection-y, which is an interesting, like, if the selection wasn't voluntary, like if people didn't enjoy partaking in the selection, that's what I'm kind of getting as vibes from this one. But I'll be hoping to finish this by the end of the month, because I think I'm about 20% through. Maybe just under, maybe 15, who knows. I'm reading this on my phone because I have an e-copy, but we'll get this done. We've also read the first chapter of Mark My Words by Mohammed Khan, which went so well that Sean decided to DNF it after 1 chapter, which isn't great. I have been highly anticipating and waiting for Mark My Words to be released for 2 years now. It was supposed to be out in 2020, around about the time of the first lockdown, then it got pushed back, then it got pushed back again. I've read Mohammed Khan's other books, never been blown away by either of them. I Am Thunder and Kick the Moon were the 2 that are out so far. Enjoyed both. Thought they were very YA contemporary, but I thought they had a very genuine voice. They felt very realistic. I'm withholding judgment because I am only a chapter in, but I'm not enjoying Mark My Words as much as I thought I was going to. It's about a girl whose school is having renovations, so her year group get transferred over to the local private school, and she's like an investigative journalist, or she wants to be, so she's investigating what she thinks is some kind of, I think it's like drug related incidences that are going on in there. And so far everybody seems like very much dramatic teen caricatures, But I will probably persevere for a bit longer because, as I said, like Muhammad Khan's other books, enough that I'm interested to read a third one. It's just this might be make or break for me. If I feel a bit meh about this one, I might not bother with the ones in the future. Especially because Sean really loved the short story that we read from Muhammad Khan's Split. And he was really excited about this one. So the fact that he's yeeted out so early concerns me. And I've also got a quick unboxing for you because the last book that we started this month is one that I've just had a new copy of arrive, and I already have 2 copies of this book, so if you have watched the channel recently you'll know exactly what this is, and I know some people wanted to see my reaction to this one when it arrived, so we thought we would do a quick unboxing for you just so that I can show you the new edition and then share my thoughts on the first chapter, which is all that we've read so far, because this is Owl Crate's absolutely stunning edition of Gallant by Victoria Schwab, V.E. Schwab. I keep forgetting that V.E. Schwab is now going by V.E. Schwab for all of their books. So I keep automatically saying Victoria, but I'm trying my hardest not to. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Oh, it's like a matte feel on the cover. Oh, that feels stunning. Let's get her out. I can see what people mean, because everybody said that the US... Oh, it's a little book plate. Cute. Everybody said that the US edition was more, like, square. And I can definitely see that. This is, like, flat but long. Everything casts a shadow, even the world we live in. And then it has the 2 houses on the front cover. I don't know what it is, but I just love the US version. Like, the US cover so much more than the UK cover. So when I saw this one, it was, like, black and gold as well. With the black sprayed pages. It was meant to have art on the end papers. But I think they got missed off somehow. So there might be... Oh, yeah, their art prints are in here. Yeah, it was... They were meant to be... Oh, what? Oh, there's also a bookmark. Wow, what? I can shape death, but you can give it life. That's designed by In the Reeds. Very pretty. Then we have the 2 that were supposed to be the end papers, but those are really stunning as little prints. It's like somebody reaching towards a glowing door and somebody doing some gardening. So then these are the end papers that are in all of the US editions, I think. There was like some kind of mix-up at the printers. Oh! There must always be a price at the gate. Wow, okay, this is definitely my favourite edition so far. I just really don't like the UK cover that much, do I? Oh, wow, Owl Crate. And then it's got some more, like, the glowing door again at the back there. With the different end papers. Oh, but I love this, like, matte feel cover. Like, the houses are shiny, but the rest of the cover is matte, which is really cool. I have only read the prologue and the first chapter of Gallant so far, so I can't give too many of my thoughts on this one, but I can say that I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I was going to. That seems to be the reoccurring theme of this video. I can already understand. I've seen a few people say that it's YA, but it reads more like middle grade, and I can already get that 100%, because when I started reading it, I was like, oh, this must be middle grade, and people have said it's middle grade, but it feels like YA. But no, it is the other way around, so it should be a YA book. It just feels very young so far. We've currently met a girl, I think her name's Olivia. Yeah. She's at a private school, like a boarding school, and doesn't seem to be getting on there too well. But that's basically all I know so far. I will be carrying on this story over the next couple of days with Sean. We're probably going to be reading a big chunk of it later, so hopefully we'll be able to get through it quite quickly, because it is very, very short. I think it looks a lot bigger in this version, I think, because of the fact that it's just such a weird shape. But I like that. It's very unique. Very interesting. And so those are all of the books that I've either finished or started reading throughout April. Hopefully we'll get some more finished in the second half of the month, so we'll be back for an April wrap-up at the end of the month. So if you would like to see fuller thoughts on any of these, fingers crossed, in a couple of weeks you'll be able to come here for those. As I said, keep an eye out for my Atlas 6 reading vlog, because that will be coming within the next few days as well. So, well, providing the reading continues going as well as it has been, because I should be finishing it in 4 days, so like you should have that soon. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to subscribe, we would be super duper grateful. Thank you for watching. We post new videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, so we'll see you again in a couple of days with another video. Bye!